Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, Mysterious Voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I've found in my travels. Today, it is Short Story Tuesday, so I wanted to focus on a short story from an author that I've talked about before. One that is about the call to adventure. I am referring to The Green Door by O. Henry, which was published in 1906. For those who don't know, I've talked about O. Henry on this channel before, so I don't need to go into great detail. But O. Henry, otherwise known as William Porter, was an author from the late 1800s. He's a very interesting author in that he wrote a little bit while working at a sort of bank, and then it was eventually found out that the financial records weren't in order, and rather than accepting justice, he fled to Central America, and he only came back once he learned that his wife was dying. He spent some time in jail, and when he came out, he proceeded to write quite a bit. He's one of the more prolific written authors out there, writing a lot of short stories as well as nonfiction. Very interesting author. Every time I talk about them on this channel, I feel like I really enjoy what they've written. And there's a lot worth discussing with O. Henry, the author who just loves writing twist endings or something of that sort. Also writing about love and those kinds of things. So without further ado, let's talk about The Green Door. I will do a summary, a little bit of analysis, and we'll move on from there. So The Green Door begins with the narrator presenting us with a fictional scenario about you, talking about like what would happen if a mysterious woman came up to you, snipped off some button on your clothing, shouted a strange word, and then ran off. Would you in fact go seek out adventure? But the narrator starts trash talking you and says, no, you're too much of a coward. I'm paraphrasing there. I encourage you to go read this and get a feel for what exactly the author is saying there. But then they go on in talking about the call to adventure, how so few people actually engage in it, while others seek out the rewards and stuff and thus aren't true adventurers. He then presents us with the narrator presents us with the story of Rudolf Steiner, who is a man who's up for many new things and trying stuff out. And sometimes this often gets Rudolf scammed and whatnot. But for the most part, he's happy with trying and not just content to just stay still or anything like that. And as he's walking through town one evening, he passes a black man who's handing out a bunch of cards, which he presumes is for the dentist. And one of the cards says The Green Door, without that many more details on it. And he notices that the other people aren't getting the same card, so he crosses the street, goes back around, and walks again, and he gets another one that says The Green Door, while other people are again getting the dentist business information, and so he tries to do that again, but the black man handing out the cards just gives him a strange look, and finally he decides to go into the building where the dentist office is and just try out or figure out what the card may be referring to. So Rudolph goes into the building, and then he sees a green door, knocks on it, and a woman who looks not to be in great shape answers the door and proceeds to faint. He goes inside, takes care of her, and when she wakes up, a little bit later, she reveals that she's hungry, and Rudolph can see that she seems to be in poverty. So he proceeds to go out, tells her he'll come back, and he brings a bunch of food that he proceeds to cook and serve to her, which makes her greatly happy, and they have lunch together. It also appears that Rudolph has fallen in love with this woman. They have a great time. They both reveal that they're single, and Rudolph promises to return the next day in order to further conversate with this woman and potentially start a relationship. As he's leaving, he sees that there are other doors in this sort of hallway that are also green. So indicating that he just chose one, and he was very fortunate in the door that he found. As the story comes to a close, he seeks out the black man handing out cards, and the black man reveals that a local businessman was trying to get eyes or get people to go see the play, The Green Door, and so he paid the black man to hand out those cards in addition to the cards about the dentist, indicating that The Green Door has just been a stage play, and Rudolph was just, that's just how things turned out for him, and he chose to read it as fate. That said, again, as the story comes to a close, Rudolph attributes this to fate, and narrator notes that that's what makes him a true adventurer and lover of romance and stuff, and that's where the story ends there. In terms of analysis, there is a fair bit to talk about with The Green Door. You have the, of course, classic twist ending, where it's revealed that that the card that he got was, of course, referring to the Green Door. You see this twist ending in several other O. Henry stories, especially the Gift of the Magi, where it's revealed that the husband and wife duo in the story both sold something, and the thing that they sold was something that the other had given or gifted to them, something related to that. But in the end, they still love each other, and that's what matters most. So you do see a bit of a twist ending that is O. Henry's calling card here. But one of the major themes that O. Henry is working with here is that of the call to adventure. Henry pushes readers to go on a journey, to accept that journey that's called to you, and find what is fated for you as a result. There's an interesting quote that I would like to read to you from this. "True adventurers have never been plentiful. They who are set down in print as such have been mostly businessmen with newly invented methods. They have been out after the things they wanted: golden fleeces, holy grails, lady loves, treasure, crowns, and fame. The true adventurer goes forth aimless and uncalculating to meet and greet unknown fate," which is a very interesting quote, just getting at how what O. Henry sees as an adventurer, sort of aspiring men who go out and try to discover something new for the sake of discovering something new. In the next paragraph, they say that many people, have been on the Crusades or whatnot, and those people sought to win something, get an award, so they weren't really on a true adventure, kind of distinguishing there. And so Rudolph follows the call to adventure from the card, and he doesn't know what's fated for him at the end. And so in O. Henry's eyes, this is what makes Rudolph a true adventurer. And indeed, he gets a great reward out of it, which he wasn't expecting, but it seems to be that he's found love at the end of this. So it's a classic adventurer and romance tale. In that way, it does remind me a little bit of Joseph Campbell and the monomyth, the idea of the hero with 1,000 faces, following the cycle of the heroic journey. Sort of like you have the call to adventure followed by, the magic and the meeting and eventually the return across the threshold that follows the end of the adventure. And you see some of those elements in this story. But again, O. Henry's kind of beating Joseph Campbell to the punch by about 80 or so years, and just highlighting the basic details of that in talking about the call to adventure and how fate plays with you in that way. And O. Henry also works with the theme of fate here in this story, as I've been talking about. So by choosing adventure, Rudolph was fated to meet this woman. Fate is a big part of any adventure story. So like the first way that you see fate playing its hand is through the fortune of the given business cards, because each time that Rudolph passes this black man that he's seeing on the street, he's given a business card, and although he should at least see the dentist business card at least once, he's been given the Green Door one, which doesn't have a lot of details on it, which is probably indicative that the person who designed them, didn't really want people to go to their stage play or something like that. That's another joke entirely. But like the business cards being given in such a way that it only says the green door and nothing else seems like a call to the journey, and thus an indicator of fate. But more so than that, after Rudolf does what he does and then comes out of the apartment afterwards, he notices that every door was green. So he chose a very specific door, and you could argue that was fate pushing him in that direction, and thus he was rewarded for following fate, or for fate rewarded him in the end. Could have just been something hazardous behind one of those doors, like a giant dog that bites him, but fate decided not to treat him as such. But I do have a question: doesn't this conflict with the idea of choosing an adventure? Because if it's fate, if you're fated to find that woman behind the door, then did you really choose an adventure? Or was this always destined to happen? I think that kind of gets at free will and the idea of human choice. But I don't think O. Henry's going as deep. But I do think that there is some conflicting nature of those two ideas in this story. I'll also note that I really love this story because it is very wholesome and kind. Rudolph seems like a very nice person. Like he meets this woman who's starving, and like although he's like, oh, she's very beautiful, like he's also like, oh, this woman needs to eat, and so he runs out, gets her some food, and brings it back, not really expecting a reward in the process. But also the underlying sort of message of that is, when you see a hungry person, it's the right thing to do is to feed them, which I can very much get behind that kind of message from O. Henry here. It's a very interesting kind of message there, and there's also the implication that this woman was being fined by her office for whatever reason in order to increase the profits of the office, which is why she was in poverty. So not so subtle socialist implications there. Also, there's a mention a couple times to a book called Junie's Love Test by an author whose name I don't remember. I'll put it up there. But it's mentioned the first time because Rudolph is indicating that this book was very formative for him. And then it's also mentioned later in the story that this ending kind of follows that of Junie's Love Test. I don't really know too much about the book, but I do think that it's something worth following up on. I think it's a classic romance tale because when I looked up the author, they were a romance writer. So kind of getting at the theme of further at the theme of adventure and romance here, but something maybe pursuing deeper into the future. Anyway, those are my thoughts on The Green Door by O. Henry. A solid short story, probably one of the better ones that I've read lately, excluding all the ones in October, of course, by Junji Ito, but definitely worth reading and checking out. I'll put a link to it in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Would love to have a discussion here. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this author or this short story if they didn't know about it before. I have a feeling a lot of people know the one O. Henry short story, The Gift of the Magi, but it's important to read some of his other work because there's a lot to pick apart from those stories too. And also join the Discord if you want to have further conversations about books or movies or TV or whatnot. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and adventure-y travels. Farewell.